The granite countertop felt cold against my palms as I stared at the divorce papers Nola had just slid across our kitchen island. 23 years of marriage reduced to legal boilerplate and notarized signatures. The morning light streaming through our bay window caught the expensive letterhead, her law firm's logo embossed in gold foil naturally. "Sign and disappear, Holden Ravell," she said, her voice carrying that prosecutorial tone she'd perfected over the years. The same voice that had charmed juries and intimidated opposing counsel now aimed its full force at me across the breakfast table where we'd shared countless Sunday mornings. I picked up the pen, a Mont Blanc she'd given me for our 15th anniversary, back when she still pretended to care about such gestures. The irony wasn't lost on me. Nola Varrow stood there in her tailored Armani suit, checking her Rolex with the impatience of someone who had more important places to be. Her auburn hair was pulled back in that severe bun she wore to court, and her green eyes held all the warmth of a January morning. "Just like that?" I asked, flipping through the pages. 23 years, and you want me to sign away half my life before my coffee gets cold? Don't be dramatic, Holden. We both know this marriage has been over for months. I'm offering you a clean break. No alimony fights, no custody battles. The boys are adults anyway. You keep your little software company, I keep my practice, and we both move on. Her little software company. 3 years of 16-hour days building something from nothing, and she called it little. But then again, Nola had always measured success by billable hours and corner offices, not by the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. "What's the rush?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Brent Marrow's BMW had been parked in our driveway 3 times this week, while I was supposedly at client meetings. Our neighbor, Mrs. Ellison, had made sure to mention it during yesterday's awkward encounter at the mailbox. "There's no rush. I just think it's better for everyone if we handle this like adults." She glanced at her phone. Probably another text from her boss/boyfriend. "My lawyer says we can have this finalized within 30 days if you don't fight it." I signed the papers. Every page, every initial, every place marked with those little yellow sticky notes. Nola's shoulders relaxed as she watched me work through the stack. She probably thought I was being my usual accommodating self. Good old Holden, never one to make waves. "There," I said, sliding the papers back across the granite. "All signed." She reached for them, but I placed my hand on the stack. "Just one more thing." From my briefcase, the same leather case she'd bought me when I graduated law school before switching to software engineering, I pulled out my own set of documents. 47 pages of carefully researched legal precedent, meticulously documented financial records, and a petition that had taken me 3 weeks to perfect. "What's this?" she asked, her prosecutorial instincts finally kicking in. "Your freedom," I said, sliding the papers toward her. It just got very expensive. The cover page read, "Petition for reimbursement of educational support expenses under State Statute 47B. Underneath, in smaller text, Holden Ravell versus Nola Varrow, marital education reimbursement case." Nola's face went pale as she read. For the first time in months, I had her complete attention. What the hell is this supposed to be? Exactly what it says. I'm invoking my right to reimbursement for educational expenses I funded during our marriage. Turns out our state has some very interesting laws about spousal investment in professional development. She flipped through the pages, her lawyer's mind processing the implications. I watched her expression change from confusion to concern to something approaching panic. "This is ridiculous. You can't just—" "Actually, I can. Page 12 has the statute. Page 15 begins the financial documentation. 3 years of law school tuition, $98,000. LSAT prep courses, $3,200. Bar exam fees and prep materials, $2,800. Your MBA program last year, $53,000. Various continuing education seminars, professional development courses, and that executive leadership program you attended in Chicago. another $44,000. You're insane if you think any judge will. Judge Drake Torrin already reviewed the preliminary filing. You remember Judge Torrin, don't you? I clerked for him during my final year of law school, before I decided the legal profession wasn't for me. Turns out all that experience comes in handy sometimes. Nola sank into the kitchen chair across from me. The confident attorney who demanded my signature 5 minutes ago now looked like a defendant facing an unexpected prosecution. The total comes to $21,600, I continued. That includes accrued interest calculated at the statutory rate. Your current salary is, let me check my notes, $340,000 annually at Morrison, Klein & Associates, income directly attributable to credentials I funded. This is vindictive and petty. This is legal and documented. Check page 22. I've cited 14 successful reimbursement cases from the past 5 years. Fascinating reading, actually. Turns out judges don't look kindly on spouses who use marital assets to advance their careers, then abandon the marriage once they achieve financial independence. I stood up and poured myself another cup of coffee, taking my time with the cream and sugar. Nola sat frozen, still clutching the papers. Of course, if you'd prefer to contest it, that's your right. Discovery should be interesting. Financial records, email communications, phone records. Your relationship with Brent Marrow might become relevant, especially since he's a senior partner at your firm. Ethics investigations can be so messy. You bastard. Actually, I'm just a software engineer who used to clerk for family court. Amazing what you learn about the law when you're not too busy climbing the corporate ladder to pay attention. My phone buzzed, a text from my lawyer confirming the filing had been submitted to the court. Perfect timing. Your attorney will receive formal notice within 48 hours, I said. I'd recommend someone who specializes in family law. Your corporate litigation background might not be sufficient for this particular challenge. Nola stood abruptly, knocking over her chair. This won't stand. No court is going to. Actually, they will. Statute 47B is quite clear. When one spouse uses marital assets to obtain professional credentials that significantly increase their earning capacity, the other spouse is entitled to reimbursement upon dissolution of the marriage. The law assumes those investments were made with the expectation of mutual benefit. We'll see about that. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, leaving the divorce papers scattered on the counter. I called after her. Oh, and Nola? You might want to be careful about any large financial transactions while this is pending. The court tends to frown on asset hiding. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. I finished my coffee in peace, listening to her BMW roar out of the driveway. Mrs. Ellison was probably getting quite a show this morning. I gathered up the divorce papers and filed them neatly in my briefcase. Then I called my lawyer. Robert? It's Holden. She took the bait. Yes, all of it. How long until we get a response? That fast? Perfect. And Robert? Make sure the process server finds her at the office. I want her colleagues to see this coming. 3 days later, I was debugging code in my home office when the phone rang. The caller ID showed Morrison, Klein & Associates, Nola's firm. I let it go to voicemail, then played the message on speaker. Mr. Ravell, this is Patricia Hendricks from Morrison, Klein & Associates. I represent your wife in the dissolution proceedings. We need to discuss your recent filing. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove to the Rusty Anchor, the dive bar where my friend Bob Kowalski held court most evenings. Bob had owned the place for 15 years, ever since he retired from the police force. Before that, he'd been my boxing coach at the community center. If anyone understood the art of strategic patience, it was Bob. Well, well, he said as I walked in. If it isn't the most talked-about man in town. Mrs. Ellison was in here yesterday, filling everyone in on the domestic drama at the Ravell household. That woman needs a hobby. She's got one. It's called your business. Bob slid a beer across the bar. So, you really doing this? Going after Nola for the school money? Every penny. Good. About time you grew a backbone. He leaned against the bar, his weathered face serious. But you better be ready for what comes next. Cornered lawyers fight dirty. As if summoned by his words, my phone buzzed with a text from my son, Jamie. Dad, what the hell is going on? Mom's lawyer called asking about our college expenses. Are you trying to take money from us too? I showed Bob the message. He whistled low. They're already working the kids. Classy. I called Jamie immediately. My 24-year-old son answered on the first ring, his voice tight with anxiety. Dad, please tell me you're not going to sue me and Sid for college money. Of course not. This has nothing to do with you boys. Then why is Mom's lawyer asking about our tuition payments and who signed the checks? Because they're fishing, looking for any angle to make me look bad. Don't worry about it. This is messed up, Dad. Can't you guys just get divorced like normal people? Normal people. As if there was anything normal about discovering your wife's affair through accidentally intercepted text messages. As if it was normal to find hotel receipts hidden in laundry pockets, or to notice your joint savings account mysteriously shrinking while your wife's personal checking account grew. Your mother made her choice, Jamie. Now she gets to live with the consequences. But $200,000. Come on. That's what it cost. I have the receipts. After hanging up, I ordered another beer and tried to focus on the baseball game playing on the bar's ancient television. The Brewers were losing, which seemed appropriate for my mood. You know what your problem is? Bob said during a commercial break. I'm sure you're going to tell me. You're still thinking like a husband, like someone who cares what people think about the nice guy getting divorced. And? Nice guys finish last. You want to win this thing? You need to start thinking like what you really are now. Which is? The villain in her story. Might as well embrace it. The next morning, I drove to my office, a converted warehouse space I shared with two other small tech companies. My partner Derek was already at his desk, but he barely looked up when I walked in. Word travels fast in a small business community. Morning, I said. Yeah. Derek kept typing. Listen, Holden, I got a call yesterday from Morrison Klein, some lawyer asking about our company finances, your salary, stuff like that. What did you tell them? Nothing. Told them to talk to our attorney. But this is getting weird, man. I don't need drama affecting our contracts. It won't. Better not. We've got 3 proposals pending, and clients don't like uncertainty. I spent the morning working on code, but my concentration was shot. Every few minutes I found myself checking my phone for updates from my lawyer. Finally, around 11, Robert called. They want to meet, he said. Settlement conference, this afternoon if possible. That was fast. Faster than I expected. Patricia Hendricks is good, but she's scrambling. Your documentation is airtight and they know it. What's their opening position? They want to discuss alternative arrangements. My guess is they'll offer something around $50,000 and hope you take it to avoid a public fight. Not interested. I figured. But Holden, there's something else. They filed a motion questioning your standing to bring this action, claiming you abandoned your legal career voluntarily, so you can't benefit from the education you funded for Nola. That's ridiculous. It's also desperate. Judge Torrin will see right through it, but it tells me they're worried. That afternoon, I sat in a conference room at Robert's office, watching Patricia Hendricks shuffle through her files. She was younger than I'd expected, probably mid-30s, with the kind of sharp suit and sharper haircut that screamed ambitious associate trying to make partner. Nola sat beside her looking composed but tired. She'd aged in the past week. The stress was showing around her eyes, in the tight line of her mouth. Mr. Ravell, Hendricks began, my client is willing to discuss a reasonable settlement of your claim. I'm listening. We think $60,000 represents a fair compromise considering the speculative nature of your damages calculation. I looked at Robert, who gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. Counteroffer, I said. $201,600, plus costs and attorney fees. That's completely unreasonable. That's what the law requires. Your client used marital assets to obtain professional credentials worth hundreds of thousands in increased earning capacity. The statute is clear about reimbursement. Nola spoke for the first time. This is vindictive, Holden. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. What I know is that I invested in your future, and you decided that future didn't include me. Now you get to buy me out. We had a partnership, a marriage. Had being the operative phrase. You ended that partnership when you started your relationship with Brent Marrow. Hendricks held up a hand. Let's keep this professional. Professional? I laughed. Your client's boss paid the security deposit on her new apartment. How professional is that? Wait until the state bar gets wind of the ethics implications. The color drained from Nola's face. Apparently she hadn't realized I knew about Brent's financial involvement in her living arrangements. That's a separate matter, Hendricks stammered. Is it? Discovery should be interesting. Financial records, communication logs, office surveillance footage. I wonder what we'll find about after-hours meetings and business trips that weren't quite business. Are you threatening us? Hendricks asked. I'm stating facts. Your client's relationship with her supervisor creates ethical issues that could affect her ability to practice law. That directly impacts her earning capacity, which is relevant to the reimbursement calculation. Robert leaned forward. My client is prepared to proceed to trial if necessary. We have 14 precedent cases and complete financial documentation. Judge Torren has already indicated this matter will receive expedited handling. The meeting ended without resolution. As we filed out of the conference room, Nola grabbed my arm. Please, she said quietly, don't do this. We can work something out. We could have worked something out 6 months ago before you started lying to me, before you started planning your exit strategy while I was still paying your bills. I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way, and now you get to pay for it. That evening, I was grilling dinner on my back patio when my son Sid showed up. At 22, he looked more like me than his mother. Same dark hair, same stubborn jawline. He accepted a beer and settled into one of the deck chairs. Mom's pretty upset, he said. I imagine she is. She says you're trying to ruin her career out of spite. I'm trying to recover money I invested in her career. There's a difference. Is there? Come on, Dad. 200 grand? That's going to take her years to pay back. Should have thought of that before she decided to trade up to a senior partner. Sid was quiet for a moment, staring out at the backyard where I'd taught him and Jamie to throw a football. You know what the worst part is? He finally said. What's that? Part of me thinks she deserves it. The ethics complaint was filed on a Tuesday morning. I didn't file it. That would have been vindictive. Instead, an anonymous concerned party brought certain irregularities to the attention of the State Bar Association. Irregularities involving potential conflicts of interest between senior partners and associates, inappropriate financial entanglements, and questions about client confidentiality. The complaint was thorough, well-documented, and completely legitimate. It was also devastating. I learned about it from Mrs. Ellison, who'd heard it from her daughter-in-law, who worked as a paralegal at a competing firm. The legal community in our city was small enough that gossip traveled at light speed. They're saying Nola might be suspended pending investigation, Mrs. Ellison informed me while I was checking my mail. And that Marrow fellow might be forced to resign from the partnership. Interesting, I said, though internally I was celebrating. Terrible shame, really. Such a promising career. Choices have consequences. That afternoon, my lawyer called with an update on the reimbursement case. They want to settle, Robert said. Full amount, paid over 7 years at statutory interest rates. What changed their minds? The ethics investigation. Nola's earning capacity just became a lot more uncertain. They can't argue she's worth $340,000 a year if she might not be practicing law much longer. And if she's suspended? Then she defaults on the payment plan. and we can seek immediate judgment for the full amount plus penalties." It was almost too perfect. Almost. I was savoring this victory when Derek cornered me at the office the next day. "We need to talk," he said, closing the door to our shared workspace. "About what?" "About the fact that 3 of our clients have received calls asking about our company's stability, about whether you're going through financial difficulties that might affect our ability to deliver on contracts." "Who's calling them?" "Good question. But the timing is awfully convenient, don't you think? Right when your divorce is making headlines in the legal community?" I had to admit, it was a smart counterattack. If Nola couldn't practice law, she'd need every advantage in the financial battle. Undermining my business would reduce my ability to collect on the judgment. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "I want you to buy me out. Clean break. I can't afford to have my livelihood tied up in your personal drama." Derek had been my partner for 3 years. We'd built the company together, survived the lean early months, celebrated our first major contract. Now he was abandoning ship at the first sign of turbulence. "Fine," I said. "Have your lawyer draw up the papers." "Already did." He pulled a folder from his desk drawer. "I'm being generous with the valuation considering the circumstances." I reviewed the buyout agreement. He was being generous, probably because he felt guilty about the timing. The deal would drain most of my liquid assets, but it would also give me full control of the company and its client relationships. "I'll need 2 weeks to arrange financing," I said. "Take all the time you need, within reason." That evening, I sat in my empty house. Nola had taken most of the furniture when she moved out, and calculated my financial position. The business buyout would cost me $180,000. Legal fees were running another $25,000. My monthly expenses had actually decreased since Nola left, but the immediate cash requirements were substantial. On the positive side, I'd soon be collecting $2,400 per month from Nola for the next 7 years, assuming she could make the payments. Her salary at Morrison, Klein, had been reduced to $180,000 pending resolution of the ethics investigation, which made the payment plan more challenging, but not impossible. My phone rang. Jamie's number. "Dad, I need to ask you something, and I want a straight answer." "Shoot." "Did you file that ethics complaint against Mom?" "No. But you know who did." "I have my suspicions. This is getting out of hand. She's talking about leaving town, starting over somewhere else." "She can't. Not while the reimbursement case is pending. Judge's orders." "So she's trapped." "She's accountable. There's a difference." Jamie was quiet for a moment. "You know what's funny? 6 months ago, I thought you were the one who needed to change. You seemed so passive, like you were just letting life happen to you." "Maybe I was. But now you're scary, in a good way, I think, but scary." After we hung up, I poured myself a drink and sat on my back deck. The neighborhood was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic on the interstate. Normal people were having normal evenings, dinner with their families, homework help, bedtime stories. I wasn't normal people anymore. The next morning brought news that Brent Marrow had been placed on administrative leave pending the ethics investigation. The firm's managing partners were distancing themselves from the scandal, and Brent's wife had filed for divorce. Nola called me for the first time since the settlement conference. "Are you happy now?" she asked without preamble. "I'm satisfied." Brent lost his partnership, 20 years of work, gone. Play with fire, get burned. This isn't just about us anymore. You're destroying innocent people. Innocent? He's a married man who was having an affair with his subordinate. He paid your apartment deposit while you were still married to me. How exactly is he innocent? You don't understand the pressure we were under, the firm politics, the competition for cases. I understand that you made choices, both of you. Now you get to live with the consequences. I'm thinking about taking the job in Atlanta, starting fresh. You can't. Court order, remember? Besides, running away won't solve your financial obligations. Then what do you want from me, Holden? What will it take to end this? $201,600, plus interest, paid according to the schedule we agreed on. And if I can't make the payments? Then we'll have a bigger problem. She hung up without saying goodbye. That weekend, Sid came over to help me move furniture into the house. With Derek's buyout money, I'd been able to buy some decent pieces to replace what Nola had taken. "Place looks good," he said as we positioned a new couch in the living room. "It's starting to feel like home again." "Dad, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you miss her? Mom, I mean. Not the fighting and the lies, but her?" I thought about it while we wrestled a coffee table through the front door. "I miss who I thought she was," I finally said. "But that person might never have existed. The woman I was married to spent the last 2 years of our marriage planning her exit strategy. The woman I thought I knew wouldn't have done that. So this is really it? No chance of working things out? Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. Your mother burned this one down to the foundation. She's not happy, you know. Even before all this legal stuff started, she wasn't happy. Neither was I. But I was willing to try fixing it. She was ready to replace it." We finished moving furniture in comfortable silence. As Sid was leaving, he paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Maybe not the nice thing, but the right thing. Sometimes they're not the same." "Yeah, I'm starting to figure that out." The garnishment order was served on a Thursday morning at Morrison, Klein & Associates. I wasn't there to see it, but Mrs. Ellison's daughter-in-law provided a detailed account that evening. "Nola was in the middle of a client meeting when the process server showed up," she reported breathlessly. "Had to sign for it right there in the conference room in front of everyone. $2,400 a month straight from her paycheck." "How embarrassing," I said, though I was privately pleased with the timing. "Gets worse." The managing partners called her into a meeting right afterward. Word is they're considering termination, ethics investigation, or not. Bad publicity and garnished wages don't look good for the firm's image. That evening, Nola showed up at my house. I found her sitting on my front porch when I got home from the office, still wearing her work clothes but looking more defeated than I'd ever seen her. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "About ending this, before it destroys both of us." I unlocked the front door and gestured for her to come inside. She looked around at the new furniture, the fresh paint, the photographs I'd hung, pictures of the boys, my parents, memories that predated our marriage. "Place looks different," she said. "It's mine now. Feels good." "Holden, I can't make the payments, not with my salary cut and the garnishment. I'll be lucky to keep my job at all." "Then you should have thought of that before you decided to cheat on me with your boss." "I made mistakes. I know that. But this punishment doesn't fit the crime. Doesn't it? You used my money to build a career, then used that career to find a replacement husband. Seems like the punishment fits perfectly." She sat down heavily on my new couch. "What if I can't pay? What happens then?" "Default judgment. I can seize assets, garnish any future income, put liens on property. The debt doesn't go away, Nola. It just gets more expensive. So, I'm trapped, forever. You're accountable. There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm sitting it looks like you've arranged things so I can never be free of you." I poured myself a drink and sat across from her. "You were free to leave. You were free to ask for a divorce. You were free to be honest about your feelings. What you weren't free to do was lie, cheat, and steal your way out of our marriage. I never stole anything. You stole 2 years of my life. You let me believe we had a future while you were planning your escape. You used money from our joint account to fund your new life with Brent. If that's not stealing, what is? It wasn't supposed to happen this way. How was it supposed to happen? You'd leave me for Brent, take half our assets, and ride off into the sunset with your law degree and your MBA, all funded by the husband you were discarding? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to make your payments. Every month, on time. You're going to rebuild your career, probably at a smaller firm for less money. You're going to live modestly and work hard, and remember that every dollar you send me is a dollar you invested in a marriage you chose to destroy. And if I refuse? Then you'll discover that I can be much more creative than wage garnishment. She left without another word. I watched from my front window as she sat in her car for several minutes before driving away. Mrs. Ellison was probably getting quite a show. The next morning brought unexpected news. My lawyer called with an update on Brent Marrow's situation. His wife is going after everything, Robert reported. House, cars, retirement accounts, even his partnership interest. She's claiming the affair constitutes financial misconduct that damaged the marital estate. How does that affect us? It doesn't, directly. But it means Brent won't be in any position to help Nola financially. His own legal bills are going to be substantial. Good. There's more. The state bar investigation is expanding. They're looking into other relationships at Morrison, Klein, questioning whether this was an isolated incident or part of a pattern. Other relationships? Apparently, Brent has a history. Nola wasn't his first associate romance. The firm's HR records are being subpoenaed. I hung up, feeling vindicated. The ethics complaint had been a shot in the dark, but it was turning out to be the gift that kept giving. That afternoon, I was debugging code when Derek knocked on my office door. We'd completed the buyout the week before, but he was still transitioning his client relationships. Got a minute? He asked. Sure. What's up? I owe you an apology and an explanation. He sat down across from my desk, looking uncomfortable. Remember those calls our clients were getting? The ones asking about our financial stability? Yeah. I know who made them. Patricia Hendricks, Nola's lawyer. She was trying to undermine your income to make the reimbursement payments look unrealistic. How do you know? Because she approached me first, wanted me to say you were an unreliable partner, that the business was failing. When I wouldn't play along, she went directly to the clients. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I was scared. Scared of getting dragged into your legal battle, scared of losing clients, scared of making the wrong choice. He paused. But watching you handle this whole thing, it's made me realize I was being a coward. What changed your mind? My wife. She pointed out that you've been nothing but professional through this entire mess. You could have made things difficult during the buyout, could have badmouthed me to clients, could have made my life hell. Instead, you've been completely fair. I don't believe in collateral damage. That's what I mean. You're going after the people who wronged you, but you're not burning down everything around them. That takes discipline. After Derek left, I called Robert to report Hendrick's interference with my business relationships. That's sanctionable conduct, he said immediately. Lawyers aren't allowed to interfere with opposing parties' livelihoods as a litigation tactic. What can we do about it? File a complaint with the state bar. Add it to our motion for attorney fees. Make it expensive for them to play dirty. Do it. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at the Rusty Anchor. Bob was working the bar, and the usual crowd of regulars was holding court at the corner table. Well, if it isn't the man of the hour, Bob said as I settled onto a bar stool. Heard your ex-wife's lawyer got caught with her hand in the cookie jar. News travels fast. Faster when it's good news. Buy you a drink to celebrate? Just a beer. I'm driving. As Bob poured my drink, he leaned across the bar conspiratorially. You know what I like about this whole thing? What's that? You're not just getting revenge, you're getting justice. There's a difference. Explain. Revenge is emotional. It's about making someone hurt because they hurt you. Justice is logical. It's about making someone accountable for their choices. And which one am I doing? Both. But the justice part is what makes it beautiful. I was halfway through my beer when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea what's coming. I showed the message to Bob, who frowned as he read it. Nola? He asked. Probably. Or maybe Brent. You worried? Should I be? Cornered animals do stupid things. But you've been smart so far. Just keep being smart. I finished my beer and drove home, checking my rearview mirror more often than usual. The anonymous text had rattled me more than I wanted to admit. Up until now, the battle had been fought in courtrooms and law offices. If it was moving into personal territory, I needed to be prepared. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed a car parked across the street. It pulled away as soon as my headlights hit it, but not before I caught a glimpse of the driver. Brent Marrow, looking desperate and angry. I made a mental note to install security cameras over the weekend. The first payment arrived on schedule, a cashier's check for $2,400 delivered by certified mail. I deposited it immediately and had the check photographed for my records. One payment down, 83 to go. The second payment was 3 days late and came with a note. Car repairs. Won't happen again. N. The third payment was a week late. I called Robert after the fourth payment failed to arrive on time. Default? He asked. Not yet, but we're heading that direction. She's testing boundaries. Want me to send a demand letter? Not yet. Let's see how far she pushes it. The fifth payment never came at all. Instead, I received a call from Patricia Hendricks on the day it was due. Mr. Ravell, we need to discuss a modification of the payment schedule. My client has experienced a reduction in income that makes the current arrangement unsustainable. What kind of reduction? She's been terminated from Morrison Klein. The ethics investigation created an untenable situation for the firm. I felt a surge of satisfaction, followed immediately by concern. An unemployed Nola couldn't make payments, which complicated my victory. What's her employment situation? She's exploring options. The legal market is challenging right now, especially given the circumstances. So she has no income? She has some savings, and she's considering alternative career paths. Alternative career paths don't pay $2,400 a month, which is why we need to discuss modification. No modification. She can get a job. Any job. The debt doesn't disappear because she's unemployed. Be reasonable, Mr. Ravell. You can't get water from a stone. I can get a judgment. I can put liens on any property she acquires, garnish any future wages, attach any assets she tries to hide. The debt follows her until it's paid. I hung up and immediately called Robert. She's going to try to declare bankruptcy, I predicted. Educational support obligations aren't dischargeable in bankruptcy. She can't escape this debt. What if she leaves the state? We have reciprocal enforcement agreements. She can run, but she can't hide from a court judgment. And if she just disappears? Then we find her. Private investigators, credit monitoring, employment verification services. It's expensive, but it's doable. That evening, Jamie called with disturbing news. Dad, Mom's talking about moving to Canada. She thinks she can start over there, maybe get licensed to practice law in Toronto. She can't leave the country while the case is pending. What if she does anyway? Then she becomes a fugitive from a civil judgment. That's not a good look for someone trying to practice law. She's desperate, Dad, really desperate. I'm worried about what she might do. Such as? I don't know, but she's not thinking clearly. Yesterday she asked me if I thought you'd accept $50,000 as a final settlement. Not a chance. That's what I told her. But Dad, maybe you should consider it. I mean, if she can't pay anyway, isn't something better than nothing? This isn't about the money anymore, Jamie. It's about accountability. But what if? No what ifs. She made her choices. Now she lives with them. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen and stared at the framed copy of the reimbursement order I'd hung on the wall. $201,600, plus interest and costs. It represented more than just money. It was validation, vindication, justice. But Jamie's words nagged at me. What if Nola really couldn't pay? What if I'd won a judgment against someone who had no ability to satisfy it? The next morning answered that question. I was having coffee when Mrs. Ellison knocked on my door. "Holden, dear, I thought you should know. There's a moving truck at Nola's apartment." I threw on clothes and drove across town to the complex where Nola had been living since our separation. Sure enough, a U-Haul truck was parked outside her building, and 2 men were loading furniture. I called Robert immediately. "She's violating the court order," he said. "I can have the police stop her." "Do it." 20 minutes later, a patrol car pulled into the apartment complex. I watched from my car as the officer spoke with Nola, examined some paperwork, and made a phone call. After a brief conversation, he returned to his car and drove away. The moving continued. I called Robert back. "What happened?" "She's not leaving the state. The apartment lease expired, and she's moving to a cheaper place across town. Perfectly legal." "Where across town?" "I'll find out." 2 hours later, I followed the moving truck to its destination, a rundown duplex in the worst part of the city, the kind of neighborhood where Nola would never have set foot during our marriage. I parked across the street and watched her direct the movers. She looked exhausted, defeated, older than her 47 years. For a moment, I felt something that might have been pity. Then I remembered the hotel receipts, the secret phone calls, the lies. The pity evaporated. That evening, Sid came over for dinner. We grilled steaks on the back deck and talked about his job, his girlfriend, anything except the ongoing legal battle with his mother. Finally, as we were cleaning up, he broached the subject I knew was coming. "Dad, I saw Mom's new place today." "How is it?" "Awful. Really awful. She's got a mattress on the floor and a card table for furniture. No cable, no internet. It's like she's living in poverty. She's living within her means, maybe for the first time in her adult life." "Is this what you wanted? To see her like this?" I considered the question while I loaded the dishwasher. I wanted her to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't use people and then discard them without paying a price. But she's learned that lesson. Don't you think she's suffered enough? Has she? Because from where I'm sitting, she's experiencing the natural consequences of her choices. I didn't make her cheat on me. I didn't make her lie to me. I didn't make her use our money to fund her exit strategy. But you're making her pay for it, literally. Yes, I am, and I'll keep making her pay until the debt is satisfied. Sid was quiet for a long moment. "You know what scares me about all this?" "What?" "How much you've changed. 6 months ago, you were the most forgiving person I knew. Now you're someone I don't recognize. Maybe you never really knew me. Maybe I never really knew myself. Or maybe this whole thing has turned you into someone you were never meant to be." After Sid left, I sat alone in my kitchen and wondered if he was right. Had I become someone I didn't recognize? Someone I wouldn't have liked 6 months ago? The answer, I realized, didn't matter. The old Holden, the forgiving, accommodating, trusting Holden, had been a fool. He'd been taken advantage of, lied to, and ultimately discarded like an outdated piece of furniture. The new Holden understood that some people only responded to consequences, that sometimes being the villain in someone else's story was the only way to be the hero in your own. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You win. I can't fight anymore. What will it take to end this?" I stared at the message for a long time before typing my response. 201,600, plus interest, plus costs, paid in full. The reply came immediately. "I don't have that kind of money." "Then you'd better find it." I turned off my phone and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new complications, new battles in the war Nola had started when she decided our marriage was disposable. But tonight, I was content to be the villain in her story. Someone had to hold her accountable for her choices. Might as well be me. The framed reimbursement order hung on my kitchen wall like a diploma, a reminder that sometimes justice and revenge were the same thing. $201,600, the exact price of Nola's freedom. She'd wanted out of our marriage. Now she knew what it cost.